Facing disdain and mockery for their humble appearance at an upscale restaurant, Daniel and Sophie's fate took a turn when a compassionate billionaire intervened. This pivotal moment not only transformed their evening, but ignited a ripple effect of change, ultimately forging a new family and a powerful testament to overcoming prejudice through empathy and generosity.
The city of Brookdale was quiet that evening, painted in soft shades of gold and blue as the sun sank behind the tall buildings. The air smelled faintly of rain and roasted chestnuts from a street vendor nearby. Among the crowd walking home from work was Daniel Harris, a man in his mid-30s with tired eyes but a kind smile. His clothes were old but clean. His boots carried the dust of construction sites, silent witnesses of his long days and hard labor. But tonight, Daniel walked with a lightness in his step. In his hand, he carried a small pink box wrapped with care. Inside was a simple chocolate cupcake with a single candle. It wasn't much, but for his daughter Sophie, it would mean the world. Daniel's apartment sat at the edge of the city, a modest two-room place with peeling paint, second-hand furniture, and an old piano that hadn't been played in years. But to Sophie, it was home. When Daniel opened the door, he was greeted by the sound of a soft voice humming. Sophie sat at the small table doing her homework, her hair tied in two uneven braids. She looked up, and her eyes sparkled like tiny suns. "Daddy, you're home!" she said, running to hug him. Daniel laughed, lifting her into his arms. "I am, my little star, and guess what?" She giggled. "What?" He placed the pink box on the table with a grin. "A surprise for the smartest girl in her class." Sophie's mouth opened in awe. "For me?" "For you," he said proudly. "Your teacher called today. She said you got the highest score in your whole grade." Sophie's eyes shone brighter than the candlelight that flickered in their kitchen. "Really? I wanted to make you proud, Daddy." Daniel knelt down to her level. "Sophie, you make me proud every single day." He lit the candle and whispered, "Make a wish." Sophie closed her eyes tightly, her small hands clasped together. "I wish," she murmured, then blew the candle out. Daniel smiled. "What did you wish for?" She giggled. "If I tell you, it won't come true." That night, after they shared the cupcake and laughed until their sides hurt, Daniel sat by the window watching his daughter sleep. Her worn-out school bag rested beside the bed. He thought about all the times he'd skipped meals so she could eat better, all the extra shifts he'd taken so she could have a new pair of shoes. But something tugged at his heart. Sophie had never been to a restaurant, never tasted the food he saw in advertisements, never dressed up for a fancy dinner. She never complained, but he could see the curiosity in her eyes whenever they passed the shining windows of expensive places. That night, Daniel made a quiet promise to himself. She deserves one magical night. The next morning, Daniel woke up before dawn. The city was still half asleep when he left home for work. He spent the day under the sun, carrying bricks, mixing cement, and fixing a leaking roof. His muscles burned, but in his heart was a spark of excitement, the thought of Sophie's smile later that week. When Friday came, Daniel received his pay. After buying groceries and paying the bills, he had just enough left for something he had never dared before, a night at a real restaurant. He cleaned his best shirt, the blue one with the missing button, and ironed it until the wrinkles disappeared. He even borrowed a tie from his neighbor, though he had no idea how to tie it properly. Sophie wore a simple white dress, freshly washed and brushed. She looked like a little princess from a storybook. As they walked through the city streets hand in hand, Sophie looked around in wonder. "Daddy, where are we going?" Daniel smiled mysteriously. "You'll see." When they stopped in front of the Golden Lily, Sophie gasped. The restaurant looked like a palace, golden lights, glass doors, and people dressed in elegant clothes. "Daddy," she whispered, "are we really going inside?" "Yes, sweetheart. Tonight, it's just you and me." Daniel held her hand tighter and stepped in. The inside of the restaurant shimmered with light and luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung above, reflecting on marble floors. A pianist played a soft tune in the corner. But as soon as Daniel and Sophie entered, silence rippled across a few tables. Some guests looked up, their eyes filled with quiet judgment. Their clothes were plain. Daniel's boots were old, Sophie's dress simple. They didn't look like they belonged there. The hostess, a tall woman with red lipstick and a forced smile, greeted them with a tone that dripped with condescension. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" Daniel cleared his throat. "No, ma'am, but we were hoping—" She interrupted with a sigh. "We're quite full tonight. This is a fine dining establishment." Sophie looked up, confused. "But there are empty tables, Daddy." The woman forced another smile. "Those are reserved, sweetheart." Then she looked at Daniel. "Perhaps a family diner down the street would be more suitable." Daniel's face flushed. He felt the stares from nearby tables like tiny knives. His heart sank, but he tried to stay calm. "Please, ma'am, it's a special night. I just wanted to take my daughter to dinner." The hostess hesitated, then reluctantly waved to a waiter. "Fine, but only if you can pay the minimum fee." Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, of course." He had counted every dollar in his pocket before coming. They were led to a small table near the kitchen door. The noise of clattering dishes echoed behind them, the smell of cleaning detergent mixed with the scent of food. But Sophie didn't seem to mind. She smiled at her father, swinging her feet under the chair. "This is the fanciest place ever," she whispered. Daniel smiled weakly. "I'm glad you like it, sweetheart." When the waiter came, his expression was barely polite. He spoke in a bored tone. "What will you have?" Daniel scanned the menu, his eyes widening at the prices. Could we get one children's meal and one soup, please?" The waiter raised an eyebrow. "Just that?" "Yes," Daniel replied, softly. The man smirked. "Very well." He walked away, shaking his head. Daniel pretended not to notice, but his hands trembled under the table. He looked at Sophie, who was busy drawing hearts on the napkin with a pen she brought from home. At the next table, two women in elegant dresses whispered and laughed quietly, glancing toward them. One of them muttered, "How did they get in here?" Daniel lowered his eyes. Shame burned his chest. He wished he could take Sophie somewhere else, somewhere where they wouldn't be laughed at. But before he could speak, Sophie reached across the table and touched his hand. "Daddy," she said softly, "this is perfect. Thank you for bringing me." Her smile melted his sadness like sunlight breaking through a cloud. At another table, near the center of the room, sat Adrian West, a young billionaire known for his success as the CEO of a major tech company. But tonight, he wasn't thinking about money or fame. He was simply having dinner alone, dressed in a simple black suit, watching the people around him. Adrian noticed the scene unfolding near the kitchen. He saw the little girl's joy and the father's quiet embarrassment. Something about it struck him deep inside, a memory he had buried long ago. He remembered being that boy once, sitting in a restaurant with his mother, both wearing worn clothes, ignored and mocked by others. Back then, his mother had told him something that changed his life. People's worth isn't measured by what they wear, but by what's inside their hearts. Adrian set down his glass and leaned back, observing as the waiter placed their small plates down carelessly. A bit of soup spilled over the side. The man didn't even apologize. The girl thanked him anyway, her voice kind and polite. Adrian's jaw tightened. A few moments later, he saw the hostess whisper something to another waiter, and they both laughed while looking toward the father and daughter.
That was the last straw. Adrian stood up. The movement drew quiet attention. People knew his face. He was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country. The hostess straightened instantly. "Mr. West," she said, startled, "is everything all right?" Adrian's eyes were calm but sharp. "No, it's not." He pointed toward Daniel and Sophie's table. "Is this how your staff treats guests?" The woman froze. "Sir, they—" "What?" Adrian interrupted. "Paid for their meal? Came to enjoy dinner? And you decided they weren't worthy because they don't wear designer clothes?"
The restaurant fell silent. Even the pianist stopped playing. Adrian's voice carried through the room, not loud, but commanding. "If kindness and respect are not on the menu, then neither am I." He walked toward Daniel's table. Daniel looked up, confused. Sophie stared at the tall man approaching them. Adrian smiled gently at her. "Hi there. Is the food good?" Sophie nodded shyly. "It's yummy." Adrian turned to Daniel. "Mind if I sit for a moment?" Daniel blinked. "Of course not, sir." Adrian sat down and called for the manager. "Bring the best dishes you have," he said firmly, "for this table, and move them to the center of the room." The hostess turned pale. "Sir?" "Now," Adrian said. Daniel looked embarrassed. "You don't have to—" Adrian interrupted softly. "Sir, you gave your daughter a memory tonight. I just want to make sure it's a good one." Sophie smiled, her eyes wide with awe. As they were moved to a new table, the entire restaurant watched. The same people who had laughed earlier now looked down in shame. The waiter who had been rude earlier stood frozen, regret painted on his face. Adrian raised his glass toward Daniel. "To good fathers," he said. Daniel hesitated, then raised his water glass. "To good hearts." Sophie giggled, clinking her orange juice cup with theirs. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt seen. Not as a poor man, not as a nobody, but as a father who mattered. The restaurant now buzzed with a different energy. Daniel and Sophie sat at the table Adrian had arranged for them, enjoying the warm glow of crystal chandeliers and soft piano music. But the tension from before lingered in Daniel's mind, a shadow of doubt and shame that had followed him through life. Adrian noticed it. He leaned slightly forward, resting his arms on the table. "Daniel, can I tell you something?" he asked gently. Daniel nodded, uncertain. "I wasn't always sitting at tables like this," Adrian began, his voice low and calm. "When I was a boy, my father left. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I went to school in hand-me-down clothes, and yes, people laughed at me. They said I would never amount to anything." Daniel's hand tightened around his water glass. He saw the familiar lines of struggle on Adrian's face, lines that mirrored his own. "But here's the thing," Adrian continued, his eyes meeting Daniel's. "I learned that dignity and kindness matter more than anything else. Money doesn't buy respect, but the way you treat people, especially those smaller, those struggling, that defines who you are." Sophie, listening quietly, felt something in her chest stir. She could see it in Adrian's eyes. He truly understood her father. Daniel swallowed hard, emotion thick in his throat. I try to teach Sophie that," he said, voice trembling slightly. "I want her to grow up knowing that no matter what others think, she's never less than anyone else." Adrian smiled. "And you're doing that wonderfully. She's a lucky girl, Daniel." The 3 shared a quiet moment. For the first time that evening, Daniel felt no shame, only a profound sense of understanding and respect. As the waiter brought more dishes, Adrian shared anecdotes from his own youth, the nights he and his mother went hungry, the schoolyard bullies, and the teachers who underestimated him. Daniel listened intently, seeing the parallels with his own struggles and marveling at the resilience Adrian had developed. "You see, Daniel," Adrian said, finishing his story, "life may hand us hardships, but we get to choose what we do with them. We can let them break us, or we can let them make us stronger. You've chosen strength. That's what matters." Daniel nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "Thank you for believing in me tonight. Even when I felt invisible, you made me feel like I mattered." Adrian raised his glass. "We all matter, Daniel, especially the ones who care enough to lift others up." Sophie clinked her juice cup against theirs. "To good hearts," she repeated, echoing her father's words from earlier. The night ended with laughter and warmth. Adrian walked them to the door, and Sophie hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Uncle Adrian," she whispered. Daniel looked at Adrian, astonished. "Uncle?" Adrian laughed softly. "If she wants me to be her uncle, I'll gladly take the title." As they left, Daniel felt a lightness in his heart he hadn't known in years. That evening had been more than a fancy dinner. It had been a turning point. Weeks passed, and life for Daniel and Sophie returned to its usual rhythm: early mornings, long workdays, homework, and small joys. But the memory of that night stayed with Daniel like a beacon of hope. One afternoon, Daniel received a surprising phone call. It was from Adrian West. "Daniel, I have a proposition," Adrian said immediately, his voice warm. "I've been thinking about our dinner, and I want to do something meaningful. I own a small chain of restaurants, and one of them is near your neighborhood. I want you to manage it." "Manage a restaurant? Me?" "Yes, you understand dignity, respect, and the value of hard work better than anyone I know. I want you to run it your way." Daniel hesitated. The offer was incredible, but also intimidating. I don't know if I'm ready." Adrian's voice softened. "Daniel, you've faced harder nights than this. You've given your daughter the world, even when you had little. If anyone can lead this restaurant with heart, it's you." Daniel took a deep breath and finally said, "I'll do it. Thank you for believing in me tonight." Adrian smiled. "Good, then let's make it happen."
A few weeks later, Daniel stepped into the Sapphire Haven, the restaurant Adrian had chosen for him. The place was elegant, but needed a touch of warmth. He introduced himself to the staff, including Clara, a kind-hearted waitress who always wore a gentle smile and had a soft spot for the regular customers. "Welcome, Mr. Harris," she said. "We're excited to have you here." Daniel nodded. "Thank you, Clara. Let's make this place special for everyone who walks in the door." He implemented changes immediately. Policies were rewritten to protect customers from discrimination. Staff were trained to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance, wealth, or background. And slowly, the restaurant began to flourish, not only because of its food, but because people felt seen and valued. Sophie visited often, calling Adrian her uncle with a grin. She loved helping her father decorate the restaurant or deliver flowers to guests. She even started a small kindness board near the entrance where customers could leave positive notes. Adrian came by often too, offering guidance but letting Daniel take the lead. Their friendship deepened. They shared stories, dreams, and small victories, and Sophie thrived in this environment of love and respect. As months went by, something remarkable happened. Daniel and Clara grew closer. Clara had always been gentle and caring, and Daniel admired her not just for her kindness, but for her unwavering dedication to the people around her. One quiet evening, after the restaurant had closed, Daniel and Clara sat together over a cup of tea. "Clara," Daniel began, heart pounding, I don't know if you know, but you've changed this place, and you've changed my life." Clara smiled softly. "Daniel, you've done all the hard work. I've just been here cheering you on." Daniel took her hand gently. "I want more than cheering, Clara, for Sophie and for me."
Tears glistened in Clara's eyes. "I want that too, Daniel." Soon after, they celebrated their wedding quietly but beautifully at the restaurant, with Sophie as the radiant flower girl. Adrian stood proudly as the godfather figure, smiling at the family they had all built together. Sophie now had a mother, a home filled with love, and a father who was no longer surviving, he was thriving. She continued to call Adrian her uncle, and the bond between the three grew stronger with every passing day. The restaurant became a beacon of hope in the community. People came not just for the food, but for the kindness, dignity, and warmth that filled every corner. Daniel and Adrian's friendship showed that wealth or status were irrelevant when hearts were generous, and Sophie learned the most valuable lesson, that family isn't always defined by blood, but by love, support, and respect. And through it all, Daniel often thought back to that night when a billionaire had stood up for him and his daughter. It had changed everything, proving that a single act of kindness could ripple through lives, creating hope, joy, and even love where none seemed possible before.
If you enjoyed Daniel and Sophie's heartwarming journey and want to see more stories that celebrate kindness and resilience, don't forget to hit that like button. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of their story resonated with you the most? And for more tales that will lift your spirits, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload.